Hello, welcome back to the channel. This is the basics of Diag, and today we are looking at a 2009 BMW 320d with a misfire, and the engine light is on, the EML is lit, it's down on power. This has just been for an MOT. It's obviously failed because of the engine light, and I think it's been parked up for 9 or 10 months or so. And yeah, the owner has just taken it off the driveway, and it's was fine when they started it, pulled off the drive, and then they put the foot down to obviously accelerate out into the road, and then there was a bit of a judder, and then engine light on, underpowered. So let's actually experience the fault. So we can see, and we get the sort of half illuminated engine light as well. And let's pop the bonnet and we'll see if we can see how lumpy the engine is. I don't know how well that comes across, but yeah. Also sounds like we might have a pulley or an idler down here. It's a bit rough. So that is fault confirmed, and next step is a code scan, obviously with there being an engine light on, and it's just a good thing to do to have in your process, your diagnostic process. Even if there's no warnings on, just put a scan tool on it, because you never know what sort of clues you might get in there. So I've just got this Snap-on Modus Ultra. I think I paid about 300 quid for it off eBay. It's only on 2017 software, so it's pretty outdated, but it should do the job for this. So we're in the scanner, and then BMW, the glare might be a bit of a nuisance. It's actually not 2017 software, it's old, it might be 2015 or 2016, but we're at 2009. Let's try and move this out of the way so that we avoid any glare. We'll try and do an auto ID, and there we are, N47 D20, and then do a full global scan. 5 codes in the engine there, apparently. Could be calf shaking because of this misfire. And the other one, the gear stick's having a bit of a dance as well. Right. There we go. So that's this scan done. Obviously it's awkward for me now. The scan tool's on the floor so that there's no glare from the sun. Well, let's see what the car thinks might be the problem. So injector cylinder 3 activation, oil pressure switch plausibility, and then oil level sensor, and then a couple of internal faults for the
ECU. So I think,
because this is a permanent constant misfire, I think I'm going to clear all them cords, and hopefully it's going to just bring back one, being that cylinder 3 injector activation code.
so I think we can go back with this arrow here, clear all cords read by scan. I might need key on, engine off. Okay, so all cords are cleared. Okay, we'll start it up again. And obviously we get this engine light in the centre display. Misfire is obviously still present. Let's go into the engine and see what code we have. Just cylinder 3 injector activation.
So that should be where I start this Diag, but I think I'm going to do a relative compression test first and foremost, because it'll give sort of an indication of the compression across all the cylinders. I don't want to get tripped up by something like that. It's a quick test to do, and I would recommend doing it on any misfire diagnosis you end up doing. Just do a relative compression test. It's going to stop you getting tripped up. Have I had it? I think it's mainly on petrol engines, isn't it? With diesels, do you tend to get P300 codes, P301 codes? I don't know if you do. But petrol engines, yeah, sometimes you'll get a P300 random cylinder misfire. The computer doesn't know which cylinder is misfiring, so then you just misfire diagnosis without any pointer as to which cylinder is the cause. So yeah, then you're into compression, fuel, spark. With this obviously being a diesel with no spark, we are compression and fuel, really. That's all there is. Maybe a bit of timing in there, but it does run, so that's not an issue. If we haven't got enough compression, then we're not going to have enough heat to ignite the diesel. Obviously, if we haven't got any diesel, we're not going to have a bang at all. So I'm gonna, get the amp clamp, picoscope, laptop, do a relative compression, and I'll just kind of show you how quick it is to do, I think. Now, I got a bit excited then, mentioning the oscilloscope. Let's have a quick look in data and see if there's any like injector correction values or anything that might confirm that cylinder 3 is the issue. Obviously we've got fuel rail pressure there, and you know, specified and actual pressures are almost identical. Smooth running. Well, they're all the same value, they're not changing, so the data in this case is pretty useless. So we will not be needing this scan tool anymore. So the first thing to know about doing a relative compression test is that the engine, or the vehicle, has to be in a no start state. We have to be able to crank it, but the engine doesn't run.
And on this, that's easy to achieve. Just gonna unplug all the injectors. If I can do it one-handed. Oh God, right, so they are now all unplugged. Next thing, we need a power out of ground to the starter. I think I'm going to put my amp clamp around this, because that goes down to the starter motor down there. So this is my amp clamp. It's a Pico TA019, and the important thing to note is this arrow. This needs to point in the direction of current flow. So if you're around the positive cable, it needs to point to the component you're testing or away from the battery. If you're around a negative cable, it needs to point away from the component or towards the battery. So let's get that round there, turn it on. Got it sort of hanging in through the window. We're not plugged in yet. I didn't know if we'd have enough length, but yeah, I'm just going to plug it in, channel A, on this oscilloscope, which is I don't know, it's an oldish picoscope I got for about £180 I think off eBay. Is the 4224? I think, I can't remember. And then we're on Pico 6. This is only compatible with Pico 6. It won't support Pico 7. However, the waveforms that you collect on Pico 6 can then be opened with Pico 7 and analysed, so it isn't too much of an issue. Now, setting up this screen, I have got the time, like the total time across the screen here. I think most people set it as however many seconds or milliseconds per division. I just want to know how much time I've got on the screen without having to work it out, basically. I'm going to turn channel B off because we're not going to use it. We need to go to this and select the probe we're using, which is the TA, what was it? TA019 down here. And then select a range, and I think minus 100 to 1000 amps is going to be plenty. And then just bring the 0 line on the screen if we can to there. I think that's close enough to 0 for me as well. The amount of current we're going to be drawing, maybe be 250 amps or so. So if it's 10 or 20 amps off 0, I'm not too concerned. And then I'll set a trigger, which is going to be a single trigger. And I'm going to set it so that the current draw has to pass probably about 300 amps there. Where does it tell you? Don't know. It's kind of there, isn't it? 300 amps. So the injectors are unplugged. It's not going to start. My scope is on. We're connected to the software. My amp clamp is plugged in. It's round the right wire. I'm 95% certain it's the right way around. Even if it isn't the right way around, I mean, you'll know by looking at the waveform. You can either flip it, do the test again, or just be aware that instead of looking at the peaks in the waveform, you'll be looking at the dips or the troughs. So yeah, I think we're ready to turn the key and watch this waveform.
Plunge down, let's go to the screen, press the button. And then being a single trigger, that trace will just go to the end, then it'll stop. And there we are. That is a relative compression test. And we can zoom in kind of somewhere in the middle. And what we're looking for are even heights or even current flow.
across all these peaks. Just put this filtering on just to clean it up so it's less fuzzy, there's less noise on there. And you can clearly see there, if we bring this cursor down, they're all sort of 290, well, yeah, about 300 amps, isn't it, actually? I mean, there's one here that is slightly low, but it looks like a one-off. It doesn't happen again at any point. And it's only 7 amps less than the peak of the rest of the cylinders. So each peak is a cylinder or piston coming up on a compression stroke. If we had maybe a dummy injector plugged into cylinder 1, we'd see an injection spike maybe on this one, and then if you knew this was cylinder 1, you could work out what each of the other cylinders were because of the firing order. We don't need to do that deep because looking at this, we haven't got a problem with compression, or at least not while we're cranking anyway.
So hopefully you see that it's a nice quick test that gives you pretty accurate results with regards to the state of compression in each cylinder. Don't get caught out by, now, yeah, it being a relative compression. If all the cylinders were low, then they would come across as all looking good. I was caught out quite recently, actually. Was it at the start of the year? We had a Volkswagen Transporter in on a 2016. I think it had done about 27,000 miles. It was a 2 litre. Was it a bi-turbo? TDI? I can't remember now. But yeah, did a relative compression, and I think I've got the waveform saved on this computer, actually. All the cylinders were even. The current draw was well over 300 amps, I think, at like peak compression, so more current flow than what this is displaying. And yeah, I just spent far too long going round in circles, and yeah, in the end, every cylinder was down on compression by about 5 bar. Instead of having sort of 19, 20 bar, it was at 13.5 or so, which was enough, yeah, to make it look like, relatively speaking, with the relative compression, it was decent. It had starting issues, this car. It was not starting that well, and then even when you kind of had it going, switched it off, sometimes it'd struggle to start. Yeah, but anyway, we're getting off track. That's relative compression. It is good, but you need to do a lot of them. So build this into your Misfire diagnostic process. You need to do a lot of them. You need to do a bit of analysing afterwards of current flow. You'll find diesels, because of the higher compression rate, draw a lot more current than a petrol. But yeah, if you are suspecting compression is an issue, don't just rely on this. Either get a manual pressure gauge or an in-cylinder pressure transducer if you can. And yeah, don't skip the basics. Right, we know compression-wise, all cylinders are even. I think all cylinders are good. So now we need to move on to the injectors. And for that, I've got another amp clamp. This is a smaller one. It's the Pico TA018. And this will do, well, it'll do, there's 2 modes, 20 amp or 60 amp. And we're going to plug the injectors back in. And we're going to measure current flow on each injector. And hopefully the cylinder that's misfiring is going to be different to the rest. That's all we are looking out for, something that's different. It's not brain surgery, it's not rocket science. We're just looking for something that's different, whether it be current flow that's far too high, current flow that's non-existent, an injector pattern that is wildly different from the others. So yeah, let's get that set up now.
Right, this should
and
be
then we'll look at the
fairly
lab.
easy set of injectors. To amp clamp, the only thing I've had to do, if you can see, these wires are twisted all the way along. And I've just turned this plug anti-clockwise a few turns, just to untwist the wires so I can get the jaws of the amp clamp in. I'll twist them back the other way so that they twist back around each other again when I'm finished. And yeah, we'll just set the laptop up on there. We'll just go along each injector and have a look at the waveform. Right, so we're in channel A again with this amp clamp this time. I'm going to turn it on to 20 amp mode. We need to select that up here. And this was the 60 amp current clamp, 20 amp mode. And then I'm going to go, I think these are piezo injectors. So we're going to have some positive and negative current flow. So there isn't a plus or minus 10, is there? Or plus or minus 20. That's annoying. We'll have to just go with this one. The trigger's now set to repeat. And then just press a 0. You see it's zeroed it. And then I don't know which is ground and which is power, so we'll just put it around 1. And if we have to change it, we will. Just be careful that your wire doesn't get caught around the auxiliary belt. Let's start it up.
You have got to be kidding me. So it's not misfiring right now. What? Oh dear. That's not ideal. Well, maybe the problem is in the plug then. Or the wiring at the plug, pin fitment in the plug perhaps. We'll look at these waveforms anyway. Yeah, the engine light's gone out.
This gear selector isn't doing as much of a dance as it was before.
Oh God.
The engine's nice and smooth again. We need to shorten the time base on this. And we could probably go plus or minus 5 amps. Right, this is the wrong way around. I'm pretty sure a piezo injector, you have the positive current first. So I'll just do a flipperoonie. Yeah, so the bottom bit's a bit clipped off, but we've got about 7 amps. Let's move to the next one. Again, about 7 amps. Move to the next one. Which I'm assuming, I think that was number 3. Slightly less. We are at 6.5 amps. And then the back one, if I can get it. I can't get into that back one. This is in the way. The pipe's in the way.
So we got waveforms from 3 of the 4 injectors. 2 good, and then more importantly, the one that we think is faulty. Now on that cylinder 3, we did see half an amp or so less current flow than the cylinders 1 and 2. Is that enough to confirm an injector is at fault? I don't think it is. I need this misfire to return. But it's also, I guess, a bit of a lesson. There was a time before I had done any kind of diagnostic training where I would have just looked at the code and gone, yeah, it needs an injector. And yeah, it may have fixed this car, but only because the wire was unplugged, disturbed, whatever I've disturbed now. Probably would have had the same, you know, amount of disturbance changing the injector. So yeah, all right, the misfire's gone, but can you be 100% confident it isn't going to come back? I can't be 100% confident this isn't going to come back now. I'm going to go for a spin and see if I can get it to misfire again, because that'd be good if we can replicate the fault. Yeah, and again, before I did any training, I used to kind of joke that it was my superpower fixing things without really knowing what I've done. This would be another one of them cases. But in practice, how do you sell that to a customer unless you're kind of making up a load of random stuff? And then how can you guarantee that the same fault isn't going to return? I don't think you can. So yeah, there's a few lessons in here, isn't there? We haven't got to the bottom of this fault code yet, but I'm going to go for a spin and I'll let you know the outcome. Okay, I've just done 4 or 5 mile test drive, various engine speeds and engine loads, and it's still running as smooth as it should be. That's bright. So I guess this is it. But how do we deal with the customer in this situation? Obviously a lot of garages now are charging an initial sort of Diag fee, an initial assessment fee, which could be anywhere from 100 quid up to £200-300. Can we charge that for this particular customer when we haven't completed the Diag, really? Yeah, we fixed it, but, well, I say fixed it, there's no misfire anymore, no engine light anymore. What do we do? I think for me, I'm probably going to charge just half an hour's labour for this. If I hadn't been filming, I probably could have done all the tests I've done in 20 minutes or so. You know, got the scan tool in, read codes, look at a bit of data, relative compression test, current flow on the injectors, maybe even 15 minutes, and then this little, well, not quite a 10-minute test drive. So yeah, probably half an hour's labour, and then just communicate with the vehicle owner, with the customer, that this may return. Maybe even a bit of goodwill next time, because although this isn't a common occurrence, like I say, it can happen, and it has happened to me in the past, albeit when I was kind of at my stage of just unplugging things and looking at things and checking for corrosion on things. That's kind of when these things happen, isn't it? We disturbed something that was obviously the fault. I mean, I could do a wiring load test, but do I need to? It's running sweet now. It can handle nearly 7 amps. So we could do a drag test on the pins, but I haven't got a kit to do that. So yeah, what would you do leave me a comment. How would you handle the customer in this situation? And that is it. Maybe we'll see this car again in the future if, you know, the Misfire returns. But until then, thanks for watching. This isn't how I was thinking this was going to go. But yeah, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.